Tuesday. So I will be posting this today. I'm aware of the raid on his home and that it has something to do with potentially taking documents during his presidency. And that's all I know about that subject. As far as biases go, I like the guy. He's not racist. And he did a lot of positive, as far as I'm concerned, for minorities and small businesses during his presidency. So, at the recommendations of the women in his life, the important women in his life. So, that's what I have to say about that. I don't know if I'm going to be using that. I probably will, but I always associate this dance card with rain dances, like a tribal rain dance, and rain is here. I also see a connection with this stag and this cheetah, in the sense that I see pain and betrayal in the eyes of the stag, where what occurred, because I do feel like I'm connecting to what's currently happening, is that these people seem to be operating outside of their element, and there's concern and betrayal and sadness and exhaustion, because it feels like, potentially from your perception, that there's people who are handling this for you, those who are responsible for communication or passing along information, are not reliable. They're not doing as effective of a job that potentially you could do. I noticed 47 here. 47 might be significant. It probably is. So, as I was saying, it feels as if you were able to handle the overwhelming amount of effort or work that is necessary, then it would be much more effective. It's kind of like that saying where if 20 of me, then I could get the job done right. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. So I won't say necessarily incompetent, but they're just not, they don't have as much life experience and savvy as you do in these particular areas. So it's not that I just noticed, because I looked up and I saw 2 books that were highlighted to me, and I just read the titles. One is, it's an idiot's guide to something, but I looked at the word idiots, and then I looked over to the other side, and the other side of my library, and it says The Death of a President. That's another book by William, I can't see that far. who it's by. It's also beside a book, The Secret History of the CIA. And I Was a Kamikaze. Those are the books that it's beside. So anyway, so essentially what I'm saying is that you're up against, it's a spiritual challenge for you, because there's what I'm hearing from your guardian angels is them saying, we want you to understand that there's a certain order of life, there's a process of life that you have to endure. And you have to experience that hunger around you and within you, so that you can discern between you can understand people better, you can perceive people better in a more spiritual way, instead of perceiving them in a worldly way. So for instance, we all, at our core level, the hungers that we have may express itself in different ways in this world. You might hunger for a good reputation, or a high-paying job, or food, or whatever kind of desire. That's the kind of thing, like something that you're desiring. But when you truly ask yourself why you're desiring these things, the true answer to it is all of the soul's hunger for love, and how that expresses itself in the world is different, and it could be misdirected. However, when you see it that way as well, you can also identify the shallowness of certain people's desires, or what they're driven towards. And when you see that, you'll see that they will always come up against a wall. Like, they can only go so far with that, because that human desire, that human hunger, like whatever kind of, you get what I'm saying, but I'm just going to use hunger for it because that's the word I'm getting. So that drive, that hunger for it, it could be, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Basically, they can only get so far because there's no creative spirit behind it, and you need to blend your mind and body with spirit, with the hunger of your soul, in order to progress, in order to actually make an impact. I'm asking, well, that's not necessarily true, because you can see the impact that the negative influence has. And they're saying to not look at it that way, because how worldly pursuits exist is so temporary, they don't ever leave an impact. They don't leave an impact, like, as far as, and then I'm saying, like, what about some really wretched people? Like, they make a significant impact, and they're basically saying, like, the way that I'm perceiving that is incorrect. Like, that's not impactful. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're getting at. So I just want to make that clear of the conversation that's going on, because hopefully that's going to make sense for you better. And so basically they're saying, like, this whole situation, what it's doing is it's bringing in this internal drive for you, even though you feel exhausted and just worn out, and kind of like maybe even your faith is being tested, and confusion when it comes to it. There's this reassurance that your prayers are going to be answered. What you need to see is that this is a removal of all of what I've talked about, these negative impacts, or these beliefs that what you're searching for, what you're trying to achieve, that isn't necessarily serving the greater purpose of this existence, is going to be shed from you. And you can clearly see what your guidance is in a way that you haven't ever seen in your entire life. And so all of these desires and hungers and thirsts that you had through life, and the reason why things you were working, how do I say this clearly? So the scenario that I'm seeing is that there could potentially be truth to you obtaining documentation, and although there is this belief in you that it was going to be serving the good, clearing out people who are doing really bad things, that there was still some finagling involved, where how can this benefit me? How can I do this in a strategic way that would benefit me? How can I play my cards behind the scenes in order for this to work for me? How can I kind of cherry pick what releases or what doesn't, something like that. And I'm not saying that necessarily that's the truth. That's just the way that it's being represented to me. So how that actually exists is, I mean, only you would know, right? And I mean, only you would know, truthfully, only you. And I saw 1313. That might be a significant number as well. Probably is. And so what I see is now you're coming up into the deeper truth of you, of now I have all this knowledge, now I have all this experience, now I have a deeper connection to spirit than I had before all of this. And this is going to significantly change the way that I navigate my life and how I treat other people and how I form connected relationships with other people. And what I'm seeing is that you have to reach out. You have to expand yourself, because right now you're still cherry picking. That's what I see with your energy, is you have to expand your energy, like a full body expansion. But what you're doing is just kind of shooting off little bit by little bit, like to select people. What I'm seeing is you have to shed your truth. You have to be open. You have to be honest. And that all that I saw 1313 again. So 1313 originally I looked up, and that was when that's how long I was talking, and then I had 13 minutes and 13 seconds remaining. So not that that matters how I saw it, just letting you guys know. So anyway, what I'm seeing is that's not going to help you anymore. That's not going to serve you anymore. That's not what you're supposed to be doing anymore. And you will get this, you will get the guidance of this specifically to you, tailored to you, not through me, but it will happen. But you have to, I mean, I think you will pay attention to it, so it's not like you have to pay attention to it. I think that you will, because that's part of your journey, that's part of your path, and you're just going to realize because what I'm seeing, there's this separate message that I'm seeing where they're acknowledging that there's a lot of spiritual truths that you already are aware of, and obviously there's a lot of information as far as politically or however you want to, whatever, like there's a lot of information that you're aware of, and that is essentially known in a way. Like, people can infer this, or people can just kind of, like, some of the information is already out there, but there's a lot of fear associated with it when it comes to the general public. And basically, because of the fear with this information, it's also goes deeper than that, of this fear of interchange, like a spiritual change within people, a change of perception of the way that things are, or the way that things have been, and the way things could potentially be, because of personal responsibility having to be taken, and also acknowledged for things of the past that may have been done. And so because there's so much fear associated with it, people aren't ready. They're not ready. And I think there's this big issue when it comes to groups of organization. Well, that's kind of repeating myself, but organizations or just people in general, where it's this concern that there's fear. The fear will be too much. But when you freeze, you die, is what I'm hearing. That's what happens. You freeze and you die. So you can't do that. That's not your path. That might have been the path at the time, or that's other people's paths. That's not your path. You need to be honest. You need to be open, and you need to be ready to say, I'm afraid. I'm questioning things. I'm questioning my faith. I'm questioning all of this, because in at least releasing that from you, then that can bring in that reassurance. That reassurance that I don't have to question my faith. I don't have to be fearful. I don't have to be concerned. I don't have to do this alone. I'm not alone, right? But first you have to say it. You have to be okay with those ups and downs of your experience. And there's a clashing. There's a clashing feeling that I'm getting. It's multiple clashings. So when I talk about, like, here's you, and then there's this bubble around you, and this bubble is people, right? Like people. Distance. It feels like there's distance between you. Okay, I don't necessarily see it as people. I mean, it could be, because that's kind of the way that I'm trying to rationalize it, but I'm not even going to say it like that, because that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm seeing you, and then there's a distance, physical distance, emotional distance, spiritual distance, and then it's like this army of energy between the bubble. So this energy is keeping you, it would be like, I'm thinking about something squishy, like a squishy fruit, like a grape. You think about a grape and how you're the seed within the grape, and then you have all of the squishiness, And that's the energy that I'm feeling in between. And then the skin, that's the barrier that I'm seeing. And this skin is clashing with the external environment. And there's this direct clashing, intense. That's how it feels. Very, 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 very intense. And then I'm seeing another clashing, okay? And it's clashing away from you. Like this is all considered part of you, like directly around you, but obviously you're protected and distance, as I was explaining. Then there's a separate part that I'm seeing of intense clashing, and there's a lot of unexpected misfortune is what I'm hearing. But it's going to play out as purification. Like it's actually going to be a positive effect. So it's going to be perceived as a misfortune by someone. I'm not seeing who, but there's going to be a perception of misfortune, but it's actually positive. And this is like honorably positive. I'm pointing up because I'm like spiritual, like godly positive. This is very good. Because there's what I'm hearing is mistaken identity. There's a mistaken identity because the story that I'm seeing now, when I look at this, you know, and at first there was this representation that you were the stag. Now I'm seeing this story here of reading it this way, where you're this cheetah. And what I'm seeing is that you're just going like a line of attack. That's what I'm saying. Is like attack one, done. Attack another, done. Attack another, done. And this is this village of people, right? This village of people, they're celebrating, they're dancing, it's a community. And from the cheetah's perspective, the cheetah, like going the distance, and here's this finish line, right? And the cheetah, from the perception of the human perception, so like the reader, I'm saying it like the reader's perception, so from the way I'm seeing it, I've created the timeline for this cheetah. I said this is the finish line because when we do races for humans, we just make up a line, right? We just make up, this is what we do, and there you go. So basically what I'm trying to say is I've tried to confine this cheetah to my world, right? Like this is a wild animal and it's living its life. It's doing things purely out of instincts and survival. And I'm over here playing games with it, right? Like it's trying to survive, and I live this comfy, cozy life, and so I'm setting up these flags and saying, okay, when it goes back there, it's done. I'm not thinking about the perspective of the cheetah. And because of that, I completely messed up warning the community that this cheetah is coming in. Now, from the cheetah's perspective, the cheetah sees this as a threat. The cheetah sees this community of people moving into its territory, and it doesn't necessarily see these people or their children as prey. It looks at it as threat to its environment. And so in order for a long-term survival, this cheetah is thinking long-term, which is more of a higher level thinking. I don't know, cheetahs, they might, I don't know. No, because they probably just, anyway, doesn't matter. This is a high level thinking cheetah. And the way that they're perceiving this is my future generations cannot further exist here if this community feels like they are so comfortable moving into this environment and destroying the ecosystem in which I exist. I don't necessarily see them as prey because they're not something that I really desire to consume. However, that's a byproduct of what I need to do in order for my family and future family to survive. And so I'm going to go in there and attempt to decimate it all. This is something very unfamiliar with me. This is something I've never done. These are structures that I'm not aware of. These are garments that I'm not sure, like the textures or the intensity, like if it's like hard, if these are bones, if it's sharp. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. This is very foreign territory for me, but I have to essentially be, maybe not necessarily the savior, but maybe like the martyr, right? Like I'm just gonna have to do it because this is what I believe in myself. This is my true hunger. This is my true thirst. This is what my inner calling is telling me to do. This is my instinct, my primal instinct when it comes to my soul's instinct, right? And so I see it happening. I see this as the aftermath, that there's nothing here from the perception of the human. I empathize with them because everything's gone, everything's decimated. There's no trace of them. There's just, it feels sad from there because it's destroyed. But it's just a return to nature. It's saying, well, you can only go too far. You can only push and like tempt. Like there was another video that I just did where I was talking about how it's like borrowed. Everything's borrowed, right? Like this is so temporary. Even our bodies are borrowed. And so that's what I feel here is you can only like, what is it? There's at the tip of my tongue what I'm looking for, but it's like you can only keep pushing and pushing and pushing so far. And thinking that you can get away with something for so long before you kind of fall. How do I explain this? Okay, this is a better way of me explaining this. This is just a scenario that I'm seeing in my head is like if you have a community of people, right? And this is the originators, right? The people who first moved in here, they struggled and they really took everything into consideration in order to survive, and they were very wise. And then as generations expanded and existed, people started getting complacent and comfortable and lost the original ways. Like they don't know how to maintain certain things, and it's kind of that feeling of like now that other word escapes me, but basically they don't know what they're doing. And so it's only a matter of time before the elements outsmart them because they never challenged themselves or they never desired to keep expanding because they didn't need to. They were comfortable where they were. And so that's what I'm seeing here is the destruction of the destruction of elements that were self-maintained purely because of the original founders or the original people working so hard to establish it. It's like old money, right? and then the incompetent people, whatever that word is that I'm looking for. And so there's a lot of, what I'm saying is there's a lot of ripple effects to that, but those ripple effects are beneficial, because what created this structure, the people who are running this structure, don't need to be there. People need to know what's going on, is what I'm hearing. People need to know what's going on. And I'm missing some. There's something that I heard and then it went away. If it's important, guardian angels, can you please bring it back? This new beginning that changes within you has the capacity to change the world. You know, it only takes one person, and that one person can create a group of people where they're like, one person's energy is already so much and has the capacity to change the trajectory of the future. Now imagine when you have people supporting, positively supporting, if this was a supportive move towards something better, what impact that could make energetically. And it starts with seeing things in a different way, seeing things in a different perspective. Yeah. I mean, again, this to me is just repetition that this is fated to happen for you. So, the best course of action currently, in order to it doesn't really matter if it's fated, right? But essentially it's remembering why you chose to say no to certain things, why you chose to walk away from different environments or situations or friendships or conversations or what have you. Don't lose sight of that, or don't forget about that. Which I don't see that you are. I think it's more of just like keep that in the back of your mind at all times. Like, oh, you can use that as like the moment that when you reflect on things, or like when you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you're starting to feel lost or confused, to go back to why you originally walked away from certain things. What happened there? What is it that you know, happened and you said was, this is way too much. This is way too much. I'm not gonna continue with this. You know, I need to go out. I need to go away from this. I need to go on my own. I need to figure things out by myself. I need to find a new group. I need to do something where you walked away. Like a situation with this, that you weren't getting along, that it says competing goals, bothersome details, conflict with others. What I see is conflicting ideals, conflicting goals. Feels like someone's gonna sit you down and just unleash so much information for you, and it's like a prophet, like a spiritual person, you know, someone in your church, or just some spiritual person is going to unleash the universe for you. Essentially, it's going to unlock everything that you need to know at this time for you, and it's going to help catapult you into making that decision, the right decision that you're looking for. Because with this here, it feels like you're aware that you have to, it kind of feels like you have this advice potentially from whomever of kind of staying put or staying quiet or thinking things over, mulling things over, stuff like that. But you have your intuition telling you that I need to hurry up and make a move soon. There's something lurking in the background, and I need to figure this out now, in spite of their advice. And I would trust that. I would trust that feeling. I would trust that judgment. And again, when you pray and you open up about how you feel, it's going to unlock the answers for you. Because I think it kind of gridlocks you when you don't want to admit that kind of things, because you want to feel like you're capable and strong and you're not fearful. Then that's emotionally and spiritually and just mentally just locking you, putting you in a gridlock. So you have to release that. Give yourself some leeway with that. And I see a very positive outcome for you, an extraordinarily positive outcome for you, one that supersedes your reputation in this lifetime. And I think that kind of circles back to everything that I was saying, where the integrity of a person is so much more impactful. Well, it's impactful and it's honored, and it carves a path that no negative influence can ever do. Like, they don't carve paths to anywhere necessarily, other than hard life lessons, I guess. Spiritual lessons that are very challenging. And you have the potential that's fated, it's actually fated, to create a path that sets you in history. Your historical, your reputation, your decisions now. They're gonna leave an extraordinarily long-lasting impact. And I do see Archangel Michael coming through, and we have specifically Archangel Metatron coming through. That are guiding you and helping clear the path ahead of you so that you do what you're tasked to do. There's some debris that you have to be responsible for clearing out as well, but they're doing their part, and there might be something here about Mother Mary, if that means anything at all to you. I think having that perspective that I was saying, where you truly understand and recognize that your life as who you exist as currently is going to be known eternally. You know, your major mark in this world, and that's not some delusion of grandeur. That's reality, and what you're about to do is going to be your calling. This is going to be that moment where everything falls into place, and everything that you've been basically training for in this life is going to be put into action. It's not getting put to test, it's being put into action. You've already tested it out multiple times, and those are your experiences, your life experiences. And now it's time to really answer what you're here to do. Divine order, Archangel Raguel, everything is how it needs to be right now. Look past the illusion and see the underlying order that's extraordinarily important. And then we have Raguel at the bottom as well. Notice your reoccurring physical and emotional feelings as they signify divine guidance, clairsentience. And we have Archangel Azrael. I am with you in your time of need, helping your heart to heal. And I wanted to pull this. I felt called to pull this. It's an illusion of being trapped, a lack of self-confidence, afraid to take action. Again, looking past the illusion. It's just an illusion. That's not the reality. You are not trapped. You have to look at the bigger picture of it all. You have to identify your hungers. You have to identify the people around you. And you have to look at it in a more spiritual manner than in the worldly manners that you are used to navigating. That's extremely, extremely important here. And this afraid to take action or a lack of self-confidence, that's something that you were advised to do with the action, is don't take a pause. Trust your judgment on that. It's okay to trust yourself against the guidance of others if that's what you truly feel. Only you know what's right for you, and just fall into that, fall into your spiritual guidance 100%. Don't just dip your toes in it. Go 100% and just trust that the way that things unfold, they will unfold to the betterment of everybody involved. Some of the processes might not be how you necessarily expected it, but that's not your path. That's not your responsibility to identify every single answer to that. As far as the lack of self-confidence, just be comfortable in that and honor that fluctuation in your emotions. And the sooner that you admit that, or the sooner that you acknowledge anything like that, then that's the sooner that you will be essentially granting compassion to yourself by being honest, and then recognizing from doing that everything is okay, all is well, everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to with hidden blessings. You will soon understand. So that's what I have for you, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.